Oké. Goedenavond, dames en heren. Fijn dat jullie hier weer zijn. En aan mijn keukentafel. Vanavond is ingaande 6 Tishrei. Het Joodse jaar is net begonnen. Het is vandaag was het de 5e dag. En de Joodse dag begint in de avond als de zon ondergaat. Dus de 6e dag gaat nu beginnen. Deze dag is in de Chabad-kalender een belangrijke dag. Het is de jaartijddag van de moeder van de Rebbe. En het was altijd zo dat vanaf het moment van haar overlijden, sowieso natuurlijk de maand Tishrei, de maand van alle feestdagen, om in New York in Katzman Uit te zijn in 770. Natuurlijk heel bijzonder en heel veel mensen. En de Rebbe gaf altijd op deze dag een verbrengen, een speciale bijeenkomst waar de Rebbe sprak ter ere van de jaartijd van zijn moeder. We hebben dus een Zoom-meeting vanavond met Chana Weiss. En dat is een van de zussen van mijn man. Zijn meisjesnaam is Katzman. Zij is de eerste die de naam Chana heeft gekregen nadat de Rebbetsin is overleden. En mijn man had dus het briljante idee om haar te vragen om voor ons vanavond de Zoom te doen. Nou is het eerder opgenomen, want deze tijd van de dag voor haar in Amerika is aan het werk en dat kan ze niet. Dus we hebben het gesprek eerder opgenomen en het is in het Engels. Maar ik ga ervan uit dat dat niet zo'n heel erg probleem is. Dus ik wens jullie allemaal heel veel luisterplezier. Zie je nu ons tweeën? Je ziet het andere scherm. Dus dat is niet goed. Je ziet het wel. Oké. Yes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Tonight is a very special evening. It's Vav Tishrei, the 6th day of the new year of Tishrei, the first month. And this is the day that Rebbetsin Chana, the mother of the Rebbe, passed away. And because it's a special day, we have a special guest all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's Chana Weiss. Her maiden name is Katzman. She's my husband's sister. And she has a special connection with Rebbetsin Chana. So we're very happy that you're here with us tonight.
Pleasure to be here.
And I'm sure that we're going to hear many things connected to Rebbetsin Chana, so we can give a tribute to her on this special day. Chana Weiss, living in Charlotte, is a mother of, Baruch Hashem, many children and many grandchildren. And actually, our family, we were in your house. Now, why did we come to Charlotte, North Carolina when we live in The Hague? Because my brother married a girl from Charlotte. That's my sister-in-law, Rochel. Her parents are the first shluchim, and I think you are the second shluchim there, correct?
Second batch. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we would love to hear from you. What's the story about your name? There is a special story with the passing of the Rebbetsin and your birth. Please.
All right, so obviously I was not there, or I don't remember, I should say, but this is a story that is told. The Rebbetsin passed away on Shabbos. It was the 6th of Tishrei, and it was actually during the Rebbe's Farbrengen that the news came that the Rebbetsin wasn't feeling well, that his mother wasn't well. I think the Farbrengen was shortened, and on that day, the Rebbetsin passed away. Monday, actually Sunday night, which is already considered the Monday, I was born. And at that time, the Rebbe was having a small minyan to say Kaddish. We were sitting Shiva. So not everybody was allowed to come in to participate in it. And my father, who was a Kohen, was able to participate in that minyan. And when he actually was called up to be to have an aliyah as a Kohen, he went up and he also asked the Rebbe beforehand, he asked the Rebbe if it was okay, like permission, if he could name his new daughter after the Rebbe's mother, Chana. And it was the first time the Rebbe gave a smile, and permission was granted, obviously. And he named me right there at the Rebbe's minyan. So it was a big excitement. It was a big honor for the family. And later, that was Tishrei time, right? So later on in the year, usually Kislev time, our family had the merit to go for a private audience. And since it was Hanukkah time, very often, actually, I apologize. I have to go back. After the baby was born, after I was born and I was named, they actually get sent in $63 for my education, to be used for my education. And some people thought it was very interesting. The Rebbe's age at that time was 63. But after a little more thought, they realized that it was for the numerical value of the name Chana. Chet is 8, Nun is 50, and Hey is 5. When you add them all up, it's 63. So it was in that merit that I received that money to be used for my education. A year later, when we went in for Yechidus, for a private audience, it was Hanukkah time, the Rebbe gave everybody some Hanukkah geld. And then when he was giving me, he actually took it from a separate drawer and he took out $10. Everyone else, I think, got $1 and I got $10. And he kind of said it in a way, meaning that since she was the first one named, that I guess, whatever, it was a special honor. And wow. Besides for that, also at that same Yechidus, the Rebbe also asked if that I should let him know when my birthday was. Since I was the first Hana, I should kind of like share with him the day of, when I celebrate my birthday. And obviously that became my ritual or my annual letter, in addition to many other letters, but always to let the Rebbe know that it was my birthday and hopefully have good things to report and, share what I was doing or, what things were going on in my life. So that's the story of the birth and the year after. That's our connection. Now, it happens to be that our families, my mother's family was very closely connected to the Rebbetsin. They lived in Leningrad and before the war, and they hosted the Rebbe himself one of the times that he came to visit the previous Rebbe. And after the war, when they were already on the road to freedom, they were in a DP camp, in one of those little camps where the government was helping them to settle in before they actually were able to go to a private place. And they were in Germany, in Poking.
Okay,
And
let me just interrupt you because
sure.
maybe it's an interesting part to tell the people about this traveling, because I think it's a very important part of our history, which is not so known to everybody. A lot of Chabad Hasidim, they wanted to leave Russia. They were living in Russia. They wanted to leave. During the war, they all fled to Samarkand, Tashkent, Uzbekistan area. And after the war, the Russians gave permission to all Polish citizens to return to Poland. Many Polish citizens weren't alive anymore. So the Hasidim took the opportunity to forge passports to give the Jews a way to escape Russia, because Russia was really a very dangerous place for Jews. It was such a danger that anything should be done to escape. So making false passports, people were leaving on Shabbat on the train because it was considered pikuach nefesh. They had to leave. And actually, one of the people that was very much involved, it's an uncle of my mother, was one of the people, Reb Mendel Futefas, and there was also a lady, her name, she was called Mume Sora, which means Aunt Sora. And actually, she was planning to leave the last possibility, the last passport she had kept for herself. And someone came to her and said, I need that passport. And she was like, well, I don't have any more. Said, yeah, but Rebbetsin Chana needs to leave. And so Mume Sora, her name was Sara Katzman, and she actually gave this last passport so that the Rebbe's mother could leave Russia with all the other people. And she, in the end, didn't make it out of Russia and was imprisoned and died in Russian prison. So Rebbetsin Chana, that she fled Russia the same time like your mother's family, your father and his brother, and my mother's family. My mother was born in Uzbekistan. They all fled in that same time, and they all arrived in Poking. So this is where we are, in Germany, in Poking, where the Jews were collected from everywhere, and from there they needed help to continue, find a place to live. So I'll let you continue the story.
Yes, so I'll just say Rebbetsin Chana was alone. Her husband was also sent to exile and lived a very difficult life in Chile, became very ill. Eventually, they were released and they were freed and they were able to leave Chile, but it was a very difficult time. The Rebbetsin's husband, Rebbe Levi Yitzchak, was very ill, and after a very short time, he passed away in Alma-Ata. So the Rebbetsin was left alone. Her son, all of her children were not with her, and her son was already in the United States. Her other son, I think, was in England, and her third son actually was killed by the Nazis. So she was really all alone. It was a very difficult time for her. She was actually in the previous, earlier on, when her husband was alive, she was a very important Rebbetsin, and she hosted many people and everybody. She was a very respected person, very educated, and here she was like one person all alone with nothing. Really, she had nothing left for herself. So, but everybody really honored her as being the son-in-law, being the mother of the previous Rebbe's son-in-law. So she was a very respectable person, and she just carried herself in a way that it almost demanded respect. Not that she was authoritative, but she had this way where you just felt that this person deserves respect. So being alone on Shabbat, it wasn't, nobody wanted her to eat to be by herself. So very often she was invited to come to my grandparents' home. It just happened to be that they were able to be a little more comfortable than everybody else. Somehow they managed, and they had more space, a little more space. And so they invited her, and she would always come very humbly. with a lot of gratitude, very gracious, and it was always a very special honor when she came. Eventually, she came. The Rebbe came to pick her up from Paris. Once they were able to travel on their travels, they ended up in Paris, and the Rebbe came to pick her up. And once she arrived in the United States, obviously she was with her son, who also gave her lots of honor and respect. And she settled in the United States in a more comfortable way more comfortable than she was in Russia. But again, she was alone. Yet the stories that are told about her are always, the Rebbetsin is always described as someone who was very approachable. Even, little girls or young women, there was no topics that were hard to discuss with her. She always showed interest. She always had a nice comment to say, making her, just someone comfortable, that everyone always felt that this is someone we could ask advice from, someone we could just discuss or even laugh with. She was just someone really, really approachable. And obviously, there was so much to learn from her in all the ways that she behaved and everything that she did. So, growing up, these are always the stories you heard about her. She did write her own diary, which is, I think, unbelievable. If you have time, I know Chabad.org, they have that written. If you want to learn more about how she writes about her life, it's a beautiful story to read about, and many, many beautiful lessons to learn from. I will say, growing up, my class, I went to a Jewish school with Chabad girls. We were always called the Chani class. Happens to be, I'm born in September, which is the beginning of the school year. So I was one of the older girls of the class. And the rest of us were all, many students, many of the other classmates were also called Chana, to give respect and honor. And it was just a privilege to carry that name. So one little incident that was always fun, whenever we played gym or we had teams, it was always the Chani class and the miscellaneous, the Chani team and the miscellaneous team. So that was just, one of the ways that we had fun with that name. But yeah, it was really a special honor and a privilege to be called Chani. I know we were all called Chanis. Nowadays, I think people say Chana or Chanaleh. In our little group, we were all Chani, but the actual name is Chana.
About how many girls in your class had that name?
I would say 50%. We were about 50 girls. I would say 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would the teachers use your last name to call you?
Yeah, a first name and a last name.
Okay. So for you, that was Chani Katzman. I also have a Chani Katzman.
Yeah. I have a few Chani Katzmans.
I have
So when I was growing up, I had a younger cousin who was Chani Katzman. So I was always the big Chani and the little Chani.
And now there are many more.
Yes.
Hashem. Yes. Okay. Now, actually, you're talking about girls being named after the Rebbetsin, but there were also institutions named after the Rebbetsin. For example, in Crown Heights, we have Machon Chana. And do you know, can you tell us about it?
I think it's probably already 40 years, probably 40 years, maybe a little more. When the institution was just established and set up. The purpose of the institution was to give opportunities to women who might not have had a Jewish education while they were younger, and now that they were either college students or even after college, and they had a little free time, or they made the free time and they wanted to catch up under Jewish studies, this was like an institute specially designed for adults, women adults who wanted to learn more about their Judaism. And so the institution was called Machon Chana, which is like an institute of Chana. And many girls took advantage of this institute. It's still a very vibrant institute today. My mother was very involved with the beginnings of it and continued to be involved for many, many years. The Rebbe was also very interested in all the classes that were offered and all the events that were planned. There was a dormitory that was set up for the girls who were coming from out of town, and they wanted a place to, they didn't want to have to commute from wherever outside New York. This was, would give them the opportunity to really be involved and immersed in a Jewish institute where, they were studying the Torah values 24/7, where they would have the opportunity to have meals served, and they would go, the entire home was run as a Jewish home. So it was a way that they were able to learn hands-on practically every day. And of course, they had a dorm mother who also was very involved in making sure that if there were any questions or if they had whatever it was, that she made sure that the girls had what they needed. And the Rebbe really took a very close interest in this institute and in the dorm. When it was finished, he actually came to visit to make sure that everything was just so. Interestingly enough, one of the things that Rebbe noticed that was missing was mirrors. And he asked that, the daughters of the Jewish daughters need to look beautiful and have to see how they look before they leave the home. So that was something.
Wow, that's very, very interesting that the Rebbe was the one to notice that there were mirrors missing. Yeah. Wow.
And he felt it was very important that girls should look presentable before they leave the dorm. And even in the dorm, they should be able to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, until a few years ago, your mother was still going every day.
She's still involved. Yeah, but she's still involved.
Uh-huh.
In different ways, not necessarily. I mean, at one point she would give classes because sometimes there were girls coming from Russia. So she was able to communicate with them in Russian. So she would, learn with them. But most of the time she was more in the administration, just making sure that things were running smoothly. And she would make events at home. Very often she would have like a Mlava Malka after Shabbat, and they would come and just visit another home and, just see how to set up a home. When you visit other people, you learn from what, the surroundings, the way the home is set up. And so this was another way for them to learn how to, become comfortable with their Judaism, at home and wherever else they would be.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to you as a young girl growing up in Crown Heights. For us, living so far away, it's so interesting. We would love to hear how it was for you.
So, when we talk about it as girls, we always talk about how we grew up in the golden era. Because by the time, I'm a girl from the 60s, but by the time I was already a little older and I could understand more of worldly things, it was already in the 70s and the 80s. So the Lubavitch Chabad already had a name. There were already a lot of shluchim, not like it is today, but relative to Russia and relative to the times at that time, it was already a big institute. There were a lot of shluchim all over the world. It was a cool thing to be a shliach. It was, the Rebbe was very well known. And so it was like we were part of the elite group, we were part of the Chabad families. So It was considered a very prominent, a privilege to be part of it. And us girls who grew up in Brooklyn itself, we felt like we would live right in the heart of all of this. Our life was really revolved around 770. Every Shabbat, we would go there. Whenever there was any kind of gathering, our school would even adjust if there was homework that was postponed or we had tests. They were also pushed off for next day. So our schedule, the schedule of our day-to-day life was really, really totally on the schedule of the Rebbe schedule. So we really lived, day to day with being with the Rebbe every day. So there was no such thing as, oh, I'm so tired, I don't think I'm going to go to this gathering. Oh, I have so much work, there's no way I could go to this. It was not even a question. If the Rebbe was out there speaking to a group of, and we were welcome, we were invited. There was no way that we would not attend. Didn't matter what else was going on in life. This was really our priority. And somehow we would manage to make up the work a different day. And it was never, it was just such a special thing to be able to be, to be able to participate, to be able to go, to be able to learn, and to witness and be part of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I remember also as a young girl, I remember I was in 4th grade. The Rebbe started the mitzvah of Nashek, Shabbat candles. And as a 4th grader, we weren't really yet, we didn't, the older girls, the high school girls, they were allowed to go out in the streets and meet people and ask them if they would like Shabbat candles. So we weren't yet able to do that, but what we were able to do, and it was a lot of fun, I have a lot of fun memories of that, we would go to somebody's basement, Mrs. Sternberg's basement, happened to be, she organized the whole campaign, and we would go pack the Shabbat candles. And we put in 2 candles and 2 candle holders and a pamphlet. And that was always an activity that we were, if you got called and you were allowed to go, that was always a special treat for us. And then, of course, when I grew up and we were able to go to high school, when we went to high school, then was part very often for special days, we would have time off of school where we would go to Jewish neighborhoods, and not necessarily were they participant or observant in the way of lighting Shabbat candles. And we would share with them the candles, tell them a little bit about the mitzvah, and share that special light with them.
So it's really like what shluchim that are now spread over the world, and they're all kind of trying to help the Jewish community where they live. And you were really doing the same, just going out of of your little place and going to other places and teach people about mitzvahs.
Right, and it was like an activity, it was always like, oh, it's like we get to be part of this special campaign. Wow, what an honor. And you have to remember that we were like, it was from the very beginning. I, suddenly you're younger than me, so by the time you came, it was already the norm. When I was growing up, it was still new, like the tanks, even the tanks that would go out, that we would see in the streets. It was all new things, and it was just such a hype.
Yeah, just to explain to the people, we're talking about the mitzvah tanks. They would take a big wagon and transform it into a place to welcome people inside, and they would stand somewhere in Manhattan and invite people if men want to put on tefillin, or they want to get some information about mezuzot or Shabbat candles and things like that. And now it's something you have in many places, but then it was new.
Right, and I remember it so clearly. In school, it was like the talk of, that was the topic of conversation. We're gonna go, we're organizing this trip, you're gonna go to this street, we're gonna go to that neighborhood. It was like really an important part of who we are. And, we were very, excited to be part of it. And of course.
And all of you, all the brothers and sisters, all went into this way, and after getting married, all traveled to different places in the world, like you in Charlotte and we in The Hague. Okay, so in the meantime, we have heard a bit about how it was as a young girl, but are there specific things you can say you learned from your parents?
Well, obviously, my parents opened their home. Chabad was an attraction. Many people would come to learn, to just be observers, to see who are these people. And as a child, our home was always open for anyone. My sister, who's just a year older than me, and I, very, very often, we gave up our room for others to come in, and we would go to a smaller room, and we would just sleep the two of us in one bed. I know nowadays that's unheard of, but that's very often we would, over Shabbat, or even just in the middle of the week, if there was company that, people who had to come and have the chance to experience a Shabbat with Chabad family, that was one of the things that we did very, very often. I mean, it was almost the norm where, for Shabbat, my sister Goldie and I would not sleep in our rooms. We would go to a different room and just have our own little, that little change. That was just how we were brought up. And often also my mother would just host events, not only for sleeping over, but for people to come and have a lecture. Someone would come and give a lecture, and she would prepare these beautiful tables for different snacks and for people to enjoy. It was just, that's how we were brought up, that you don't have a home for yourself. Your home is for you to share with others, and most importantly, share what we learned from the Rebbe with others. So, that was something that happened all the time. And my father was always very involved with Chabad organizations called Tzach, and he always went to meetings to make sure that things were even though he himself was a private businessman, in his free time, he always made sure to be involved in any Chabad organization to, help them out, both, with ideas of how the organization should grow, in addition to helping just financially, to help raise money or to to give money. And my mother also was very involved in all conventions, and as we mentioned before, in the Machon Chana, in the building of the school. Just, basically, if you have something, a talent, or if you have time, or whatever it is that you have, we should use it to help others, share what you know. And that was something we saw in our house growing up.
Yeah. Okay. As you said before, I came into the house when you were married and you had already a bunch of girls before the boys came. And yes, it was very clear. always lots and lots of people over there. And okay, your mother is now a bit older, and still there are grandchildren that live in her house and people that come. It's really amazing. And yeah, it's clear that this kind of upbringing results in having all the children continuing the same way, which is really beautiful. Okay, so let's travel now to Charlotte. How did you arrive in Charlotte? How did that happen?
So that's another thing that, we're really, 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 really lucky and very, very blessed. When my husband and I, after we were married, our goal and our dream was to continue, like we saw all our peers and our mentors to do what the Rebbe asked us to do, reach out and be part of teaching the Rebbe's teachings with others. So we wanted to be part of that shlichus. It happens to be that at that time here in Charlotte, the Groners, Rabbi Yossi and Mariashi Groner, had already settled here in Charlotte. And as their activities were expanding and growing, they really felt they needed another couple, another pair of hands to help them continue growing. And so they approached my husband and they asked us if this is something we would consider. And so we came down, took a visit, and we really were happy with what we saw. And so we were able to write in a letter to the Rebbe asking him his advice. And we asked it in a way, if the Rebbe will bless us, we would love to be able to join on this team, be part of the team in Charlotte. And the Rebbe crossed out the word if, and so the sentence came out that the Rebbe blesses us to join the team of Charlotte to be part of their shlichus, to be part of this Chabad mission. And with those blessings, we came here, very excited, and thank God there hasn't been a day that we haven't been busy.
You want to describe like what Charlotte was like when you came and what all the activities are that you're doing over there?
So when we first came, Charlotte was it still is a small city. We consider ourselves a bigger city today, but I'm here already 34 years. So 34 years ago, Charlotte was really a small southern town. And there were maybe 10,000 Jews at the time. The big project that the Groners were working on was to have a weekly Shabbat minyan, and they had a preschool. They just started a preschool for ages for 3s and 4s. And so my responsibility was to be the teacher of Jewish studies for the preschoolers. So, I went to all the groups. We had 2 groups at the time. And my husband's job responsibility was to make sure that we would have a minyan and to do after-school activities with the students, with children who did not go to Jewish school. There was a small Jewish school at the time, a Hebrew Academy, when we first arrived, that was really dwindling. They had maybe 20 students at the time when we came. So that's what Chabad had at that time. We had like events for children, we had the Shabbat weekly events, and we had the preschool. And now, 34 years later, with a lot of hard work and with amazing blessings from, to have success in all of our work from the Rebbe, at this point in Charlotte, we have a thriving preschool, close to 100 students, ranging from newborns to 4-year-olds. And we have a weekly minyan 3 times a day, in addition to our Shabbat services that we offer. We have a day school that is really a community day school, but it is led, the head of school is Chabad. It is run by Mrs. Mariashi Groner, and we have grades K through 5. We have over 100 students, which is also
Wow.
starting, yeah. And it is the only Jewish school, though, in Charlotte at this point. We have a few branches in Charlotte. We have a community in Ballantyne. We have a community uptown Charlotte. So in addition to just in the, like we're the residents in the residential part of Charlotte, we have another branch out in Ballantyne and in the uptown, because as I said earlier, at this point, Charlotte is really a growing city, and we have much more Jewish families. And so the community is growing. So the Chabad branches had to grow, with them. We also have a community in Lake Norman, which is not far from Charlotte. So these are, it's definitely, a tribute to the Rebbe's blessings that we have been able to expand in this way.
Yeah, because when you came, you were the second couple.
Yeah.
My brother and sister-in-law are there. My cousin and her husband are there. So how many shluchim are there now in Charlotte?
Yeah, we have a great Holland representation.
Yeah, my cousin is from Holland. So there's my brother and my cousin, both from Holland.
Correct. And, it's a growing Jewish community, and Chabad is growing as well. Thank God.
Yeah, so how many shluchim do you have?
How many couples do we have now just in the Charlotte area? I'm not even talking about, Myrtle Beach.
Just the Charlotte area.
Just the Charlotte area. Give me a minute. I don't want to miss anybody out. I think we are 10 families.
Wow. That's wonderful.
And nobody is twiddling their thumbs. Everybody is busy from morning to night, Baruch Hashem. With, we also have the Hebrew school. There's just a lot of activities. We have a friendship circle. There's just we really try to provide something for all ages. So, obviously the preschool provides for the young children. Then we have the day school through a 5th grade. So when the children graduate from day school, we provide teen programs and, just something for the kids to stay in touch. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have JLI classes for the adults. There's, we really try to fill the need for everyone. And like I mentioned before, friendship circle for those children who need a little extra love and friends. Mm-hmm.
And as a mother of many children and grandchildren, what can you tell us about educating your own children?
So every child is a blessing. Every child is an investment. Every child is unique. Every child is an individual. As much as we like to group them together and say, oh, they're just a carbon copy. They're all the same. When you look at many times when my children are together, oh, you look like a Weiss. You have that Weiss face. We have a lot of things in common, but at the same time, everybody is their own personality, their own have their own needs, their own strengths, their own everything. I am very lucky. My husband has a fantastic sense of humor. So even though sometimes when you're very stressed and you feel like, oh my gosh, how are we going to manage? You just have to take a minute, just laugh a little, and just make sure that everybody has the necessities. And, if something is not the way exactly you wanted it to be, guess what? It's fine. We have to, remember what's important, prioritize. The important things have to be taken care of first, everybody's healthy and safe. And then, if you want the house to be clean, that's also important, but not as important. And, you know, you want to have a healthy dinner. You don't have time to prepare it. So you take something that's easy, but it's very important that kids feel that it's a happy home, that it's a place where they feel loved, and everything else is secondary.
Okay, that's a very good way of looking at life, and something we could all work on, I'm sure.
Yes.
Is there like something, a moment that you say, this is why I came to Charlotte? Like something special that's happened or someone said or something like that?
Well, thank God we have a lot of families that we're really, really close with that really are like our family. We've seen them grow from, you know, just coming to our preschool and then watching them get married and bring up Jewish families, building Jewish homes. So, I mean, that's definitely something very, you know, after 34 years, you get to enjoy some of those, you know, the fruits of your labor somewhat. But I'm going to say every day, you know, we wake up every day. I am lucky enough to come to a school that Jewish children are waiting for me to share with them what I can about my love that hopefully will become their love for Judaism on a daily basis. So I really feel that every day, you know, as exhausted as I am, this is a privilege to be able to come and share this love and enthusiasm for Judaism with Jewish children.
Wow, that's amazing. Really, really beautiful. I wish all teachers would just have that thought in mind every morning when they wake up and go to their classrooms. Because yes, with love, that's the way to go.
Yeah, otherwise you could all close up shop.
Yes, actually my sister-in-law, who also works in the school, she sometimes sends things that she prepares for her classroom, and I'm always so amazed how beautiful and how, yes, full of love. You see the heart in there. It's very, very special to see. It must be
you know, you have to inspire yourself. You have to keep on. You have to be involved in what's happening educationally as well as Jewishly. You just have to reinvigorate yourself. Otherwise, you know, you become stale, and what you share is missing. It's lacking. So you have to work on yourself, get yourself pumped up, and as a result, you come in and you're able to share that.
Yes. Okay, so we're coming close to wrapping up. We just started the new year. We're the 6th day in the new year. We would love to hear from you. What is your wish, your message to the people listening? Some words of encouragement, whatever.
So, you know, we're going through a very odd, strange, some people call it a difficult time, and it is a little difficult, you know, going through this whole COVID-19. We are open, our school is open, happens to be all the public schools in Charlotte are closed. Oh. And all the children are learning virtually. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy for the kids. It's not easy for their parents. It's not easy for anyone. We are used to, I mean, all our lives, we know we go to school. That's part of our schedule. But in every, you know, challenge comes a blessing. And my blessing actually to all of you, the Holland community, the hate community, I wish you all to find the good that's hidden in this COVID-19 challenge. we keep on talking about being socially distanced. We could be socially distanced physically, but we have to maybe connect stronger in an authentic way, reach out to others in a way that is meaningful, in a way that we could really connect as brothers and sisters of the Jewish people. And when Hashem will witness how we are so connected to each other, surely He will bless us with peace and happiness and success. And most importantly, may we merit finally to all march together and greet Mashiach in a happy, peaceful way. And our leader, our Rebbe, will lead us at the head.
Thank you so much. That's a very, very important wish that we all want, that we should all march together to Israel, to our land, and live the life that we really are waiting for. Thank you so much, Hani, for
pleasure. Thank you for having
being
me
here. And to you also, a very good year. And hopefully we'll meet very soon, face to face again.
Amen. Amen.
Okay.
Shana Tova to all of you. A blessed year, a sweet year, a year full of happiness and good things.
Amen. Thank you so much.
All the best. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sarah. Bye.
Bye.
Shana Tova.
Chana Tova. Thank you.
Wel tov.
Heb ik toch gedaan?